which is the interesting thing that I pick when I read this book, is that I find it a bit different than some other DevOps books that I have read. For example, I've read DevOps Handbook, Accelerate, Phoenix Project, although it sounds very different, definitely. But can you tell us maybe what would be the silver lining when you write the book, right? What is something that you want to offer different from the other DevOps books out there or DevOps practitioners that have been established throughout the last few years?
So I think that the biggest thing that most people miss, and this is something I've talked with Gene Kim about, I've actually had great conversations with people like Jez Humble and Dave Farley about as well. It's not about the tools. Tools will come and tools will go. In fact, this was something when I first wrote the book and I gave it an early draft to people, they went, in fact, one of them was Mary Poppendick. She's like, why aren't you talking about containers? And I'm like, containers is an implementation thing. And I can tell you in my career, it will come, it will go, there'll be something else. And so if I just focus on the technologies, I'm missing the point. The point is, how can you go through and make better decisions? How is it that you're able to achieve the actual outcomes? This is something that actually drives me a bit crazy with a lot of the DevOps community. People focus so much on outputs. They focus on uptime, but they don't actually think about what is it that the customers are trying to do and what's important. And I give a story. I was working for a company that did a lot of commodities trading. And when I came in, they said, oh, we're trying to produce all of our systems and our services. We want to have 5 nines uptime. And I went, oh, that's interesting. So tell me more. Why is it in 5 nines uptime? And they went, well, our services are really important and we can't afford to be down. If we're down, then our traders can't trade. And I said, okay, so are your traders trading in the middle of the night? And they went, no. I said, are they trading on the weekends? No. So when is it that they're trading? And you find out that when they're trading, and they did have a bit of an extended day, but their extended day was like 9 a.m. to like 7 p.m. And I went, okay, so 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., you need to be up 100% of the time. The rest of the time, the whole thing could be down. And they went, yep. So it's not about 5 nines uptime. It's about understanding what it is that you're trying to do. This is something I learned when I was at the investment trading. We're building the trading systems. For us, the crosses were the most important. It was 9 minutes that we had to have 100% uptime. The rest of the time, it was 9 minutes and like 6 windows during the day. The rest of the time, the whole thing could be down. But those times, everything needed to be up. It needed to be performant. It needed to respond exactly how it was that I wanted. And I think that's something that people miss. They miss what is it that people are trying to do? What is it that they need to try to solve? My experience of watching video is going to be very different than if I'm actually grabbing a regular text website. If I lose frames, the world comes to an end when I'm actually watching a video. If I get a retransmit on something that's text, I'm not even going to notice. And you need to be able to actually understand those things, and then build your ecosystem to be able to go through and manage all of that stuff. So that's why I'm constantly going through and saying, what is it? What is your purpose? How is it that you actually know what's going on and how you're meeting your purpose? What is the data, the information, the awareness? Because it's not just what you know and not just the data that you have, but what your ability to pull those things together to be able to go through and make effective decisions. Do I deploy it this way or that way? Do I build it this way or do I do it that way? Those are things that really come by actually understanding that true north of what actually matters to the customer. That is something that time and time again in the community, people miss. They miss, what is it that I'm trying to do? Why am I doing it? They miss, if I do things in one way, it's going to hide information that might be important to me, or it might flood me with so much information that isn't actually important. And that makes it very difficult for me to sift through it to be able to make decisions. And that is the big thing that I see in the community that I really, really, really want people to learn and improve. And again, it's not that the tools are bad. Tools are great, but understand what the tools are doing, understand how it is helping you, understand what it is that it's simplifying and hiding from you, and understand if that is actually something that doesn't actually matter or ultimately is going to be important to you.
Thank you for giving the context why you wrote this book and why it differs from others. So the subtitle of your book also I find very interesting. You mentioned a practical guide to on-demand service delivery First of all, what are you referring to on demand service delivery? Is it some specific thing about, I don't know, like software consulting, or is it like software engineering team, or is this something that is applicable to all engineering team, no matter what? And if you can also give us some highlights, what are some of the problems that the IT service delivery are dealing with in these modern days?
Sure. So the reason I say on demand service delivery is when I worked in different types of delivery organizations, I've worked in ones that build shrink wrap software. And of course, I've worked in ones that actually have services. And why I talk about on demand service delivery is if you're in a shrink wrap software world or one where you have low engagement, low cycle, low tie to your customer, you can ignore a lot of things. Or you can push back onto the customer and their IT organization a lot of the heavy lifting of what's going on. But if you're doing on demand service delivery, much like your telephone, internet connection, all of that stuff, the quality of the whole end to end matters. You need to make sure that you actually understand who your customers are and what your customers are doing. And that part is actually really important. And that goes back into the IT service delivery teams. There's this interesting thing, and I've seen it far more since I've been outside of the Valley, and that there's still this difficulty for a lot of organizations, and not just the technical organizations, but actually the non-technical managerial organizations, to really understand how integral the IT service delivery, the technology, and the teams that are building and running the technology are to understanding and working with the business to actually achieve what is needed. So a lot of people will go, okay, well, I'll just go through and give them a bunch of requirements. I don't need to tell them anything. Parts is parts. In fact, some people go even further and go, you know what? Anyone can sling code. So if I just give requirements, I can outsource all that stuff, and I can outsource it to some random other company that doesn't need to know anything about my company or my industry or any of that. And I'll get something back and I'll be able to use it. And then what they quickly realize is, yeah, okay, that works for some generic things. But when it's actually something that's core to your business, it doesn't work. Things start to fall down. Things don't behave exactly how you would expect that they would. And that is a big, big problem.